there, welcome to my channel, Wool Meets World. I am Marcy. I am a New York City based knitter, sewing enthusiast, and all around hobby collector. On this channel, I talk about everything that I'm making, or more realistically, everything that I think I have time to make, but actually don't. And I have so many new projects to share, as well as one very, very sad reading report for the month of January. Everything that I'm talking about, all the details can be found in the description box below, including my Ravelry project page links. I have so many whips to share. I've had a little bit of cast-on-itis for the month of January, but before I get there, let's just get to the one and only finished object that I have. These are the Oolong socks, and they are a pattern by Amy Scher. It's a fingering weight sock pattern from cuff to toe, and they have this super cute lace panel in the front of the sock and an optional, is that the word? Optional mohair ruffle. And optional is the right word, right? Okay, it has an optional mohair ruffle, and I feel like I've been talking about these socks for like 2 years, but it's more realistically been like since May, so like maybe 7 months or so, but they are finally finished. I've had the main body of the socks done for a while now, but I procrastinated a little bit and didn't get to the ruffles until the latter end of 2025. And this would have been a whip that was done in 2025, except I messed up the second mohair ruffle. I must have been like watching TV or something, because I forgot to do the second round increase row, where you basically double the amount of stitches that you have to get it to look roughly. And I didn't realize until I was almost like at the bind off edge, and I had to rip the whole thing out and redo it again. But they are finally finished. They are super cute. I made a couple of modifications to this pattern. And the first one, the major one, being that I did not do it cuff down, I actually did it toe up. There is a chart for the lace panel. So what I did was I casted on using Judy's Magic Cast On at the toe, and then I worked the chart backwards. So the chart should normally go from cuff to toe, 1, 2, 3. I actually worked it like 16, 15, 14, etc. backwards so that I could achieve the same direction when going toe up instead of cuff down. And then the other major modification I made was to the heel. I believe the pattern has a traditional heel flap and gusset heel there. I chose to do a short row heel. This is the shadow wrap heel. And yeah, I think it turned out great. The yarn that I used for this is from Woolberry Fiber Co. That is the main sock here, and it is in the colorway Cherry Blossom, and you can see that it is a sort of semi-solid pink, and it has some yellow speckles to it, and I really love the way it turned out. That is the colorway Cherry Blossom I said, and then for the ruffle I did Knitting for Olive's Soft Silk Mohair, and it is also in the colorway Cherry Blossom, which I thought was a little bit of kismet. I basically decided to pick out kind of the lightest pink there and do the ruffle in that for a little bit of contrast, and I think it turned out spectacularly. And it's totally fine that it took me so long to finish. It's not about the destination, is it about the journey, isn't it? But these I think are giving like major spring vibes. So, you know, it's giving spring, and so technically I've finished it way ahead of time before spring gets here. So I am looking forward to wearing those. All right, now that that's over with, let's get to all the works in progress I have. I have my computer right here, so I'm just gonna be looking off to the side for my notes. And the first one that I have is carrying it around in this super extra large Alice in Wonderland project bag that I get. I really forgot who makes this project bag, but I did get it at Vogue Knitting Live in New York a few years ago. And it's super cute. It's got these like tea party inside fabric here, and it is so big that it holds a whole bunch of yarn. It can hold a gigantic sweater as well as a bunch of yarn for color projects, etc. And I love it. So it is holding my newest cast on. These are the Sailor Slippers by Annie Sews, and this is a felted slipper. If you haven't seen this on Instagram, I'll tell you all about the pattern. I mean, It's super viral right now, so chances are you know exactly what pattern I'm talking about. These are the sailor slippers, and they are a felted slipper. You knit it flat, you seam it up the sides, and then you stick it in the washing machine to felt the fabric, and you knit it oversized, and it shrinks down to be your shoe size, which is insane to me. I am super intimidated to do it, but I'm going to be brave, and I am going to do it. So I am knitting a size 38. I think the pattern comes in EU and UK sizes. So I'm knitting a EU size 38, and which translates to a US women's 7 or 7.5, right thereabouts. So I actually ended up measuring my foot, and the finished measurements for this after felting for the EU size 38 will be about 9.5 inches from ankle to toe, and then the sole width is going to be 4.5 inches across this way, and then the little ankle opening is going to be 9.5 inches. So I think I'm right on gauge. I think this is going to turn out exactly to be the right size. I don't have one of those handy little front-loading washing machines with the handy little window so you can see inside. I have a top loader, so I'm not gonna be able to see. I think I'm just gonna have to like check on this every 5 minutes or so to make sure that it doesn't shrink too much. Like the pattern does say that you can kind of stretch it to size a little bit, but I think if you kind of shrink it down to like toddler size, there's no amount of stretching that will help this. So I'm just super intimidated, but I am doing it because it is a really quick knit. You just need like 2 or 3 days in front of the TV, and this is done. This is, like I said, is my latest cast on, and I'm almost done with the first slipper. So you start here at the back of the heel, you knit flat, and then you pick up stitches along the side and then along the top here, and that'll give you the top of the slipper. You do some decreases for the toe, and then you go back the other way and you knit up the sole, and then so all I have left here to do is the heel shaping, and then you're going to mattress stitch this close, and that will be done. The colors that I chose for this, so this is a bulky weight pattern. I don't have a lot of bulky weight yarn, so I've taken fingering or Aran weight yarn, and I split them into 2 balls, and I'm holding 2 strands together to give me that proper gauge. And the front here is some leftover Letilope yarn. And I actually got this while I was in Iceland several years ago, and I made, I think, a hat with it, and I had some leftovers, so I am using that for this. And the darker purple here, that's the colorway Dark Wine, and then this mauve lighter purple is Rose Heather. So I'm holding 2 strands of Letilope together, and I'm just kind of bringing, let me see, is it on this side? Yeah, so I've brought the colors up the side so you don't have to weave in a cajillion ends by the end of this, and I thought the contrast on this turned out so nice. Like I said, I don't have a lot of bulky weight or even worsted weight stash, so I ended up having to go buy this one for the sole because I just didn't really have another color option that I liked for the sole. And this is from Lion Brand, and I just want to show the label because this is really important. I went to Michael's to buy this. If you go to Michael's and you are looking for yarn for this, you need 100% wool yarn, no superwash, and definitely no acrylic. It has to be 100% non-superwash wool. So when you go to Michael's, I got this Wool Ease, and it is the Wool Ease Roving Origins. The regular Wool Ease has acrylic in it, so it's not going to work for this project. So if you go to Michael's, just make sure you are looking for Origins. It's a very small section there. There are only like a few colors, but I did end up finding this color, and it is the colorway Golden Rod. And again, I'm holding this. I bought 1 skein, but I'm split it up into 2. So I'm holding 2 strands together to get that bulky weight gauge that I needed. And yeah, I am gonna let you know how this turns out. I'm super freaking nervous for this one. I still have some work to do, like I said, and I might add in a 4th color. The pattern, I think, does include a 4th color around the ankle opening. And I haven't quite decided if I'm going to use it or not, but I have this lonely skein of pink worsted weight yarn that I got a cajillion years ago when I first started knitting. This is called Wool Trip, and I believe, if I remember correctly, it was a collab between the pattern designer Hannah Fettig and Green Mountain Spinnery maybe, and she released yarn in just these two colors, the gray and the pink. And at the time when I was a new knitter, I just didn't know how to buy yarn. I didn't know how much you needed for projects or anything like that. So I ended up just buying one skein, and I think, yeah, this is 126 yards of worsted weight yarn, and it's like, it's been in my stash ever since, because like, really, what am I gonna do with this? I could probably make some like fingerless mitts out of it, but I don't know what else I would actually knit this for, so I might end up using this for, that might be cute, right? I'm gonna decide when I get there. I might end up using this, yeah, for the cuff. And we'll see how it looks. Follow me on Instagram if you want to see how this turns out, if I shrink it beyond all wearing capability. This is the As If Tee by Shay Johnson. It is a cropped bottom-up sweater that features this really pretty illusion top, which is achieved by using fine lace yarn. And this has been on my pattern queue for so freaking long. And I finally, January 1st, 2026, casted it on. This pattern is actually so old that there's a version 1.0 and a version 2.0. I have access to both. Version 1.0 was for limited sizes, like maybe only like 3 or 4 sizes, I think. And it included instructions for knitting flat. The updated version 2.0 has a lot more sizes to make it size inclusive, and it also includes instructions for flat knitting, but also in the round knitting. I chose to do the flat option the way the pattern was originally intended. And so you knit them first the front, then the back, and you seam them up. So here is my progress. And it's the construction of this is gonna be a little bit funky. I'm probably gonna have to rip back just because I was super impatient after I had a problem with the original yarn I picked for the illusion top. But here is the front. As you can see, it is not completed. It is actually completed right up until the part where you introduce the lace yarn to start the shaping for the front of the top. And so that's pretty much that. And I was ready to add the yarn for the top, but I knew it was going to be a problem, and I like tried to proceed anyway. Nope, I had to just buy some new yarn. Everything's all tangled up, so I'm trying to untangle it. While I bought the new yarn and while I was waiting for it to get delivered, I started the back. So I started at the bottom with the heavier weight yarn, and then when I got the new one, I was still on the back, so I just kept going right up through the back in the mohair section. And this is gonna end up being a problem because the pattern is not written super technically where it tells you, okay, now the mohair section's like 5 inches. It just says for the back, knit to the same height as the front, except I didn't finish the front, so I don't know what the height is. And even in the front, it doesn't say, you know, knit X amount of inches. It says like knit like 5 rows and then you're done with the front. So what I ended up doing was just looking at this schematic in the back, and from hem to the top, it's gonna be about like 17 inches or so, I think is what it said. So I am basically just knitting until I get to about 17 inches. I'll probably have to rip back a little bit to do some shaping for the neck, but you know, I don't know, that's what I'm doing. Or maybe I'll just put it on hold. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I am still going up the back despite the front not being finished. And the yarn that I'm using here is, the main body is Geller Yarns. And it is in this red. The colorway is called Alizarin. I think I'm pronouncing that right. There's the label, and it is their Wow base. And it is a either worsted or Aran weight base here, and colorway Alizarin. And it's a 475 yards just for this one hank. So I've just bought one of them, and I'm gonna have plenty of yarn left over after I'm done with this. And I actually really love this base. I've knit with Geller yarns before, but it was their alpaca base. So this is the first time I'm knitting with their 100% superfine merino base. And it is really nice to knit with. It is super soft. It's only one ply, which definitely can get annoying when you're wrapping it around your finger, so it'll like bunch up and curl up on itself. But I just think that the stitch definition is so nice that I really don't care. Like, I don't work with a lot of worsted weight or Aran weight yarns, and it's just because I find that I get a lot of gapping. Like, I really like a nice dense but pliable fabric, and so I find when I'm working with worsted weight, it's too gappy for me. I don't really enjoy the look of that, but I love how this is knitting up. I'm using a size US 7 needle, 4.5 millimeters, and it is just really beautiful. So I might just end up buying some more of this because I can knit like 20 sweaters in this, and I don't go for a worsted weight sweater usually. So that is saying a lot for me. The original yarn that I had gotten was a yarn that matched completely perfectly with this Geller yarns. My idea for the top, like you could see if you look through some of the pattern pictures, you can do this in a myriad of ways. You can have one color on the bottom and then have the illusion be a different color, or have it have speckles. Either way, it looks nice. But my vision for this was to have one solid color with just, the illusion at the top. And so when I was picking out yarns at the yarn store, the ladies in my local yarn store were so nice. They helped me pick out this other one, which you can see when I hold it up is almost exactly the same color. This is Moondrake yarns, and it is their Fua base. But I was so focused on the color at the time in the yarn store that I neglected to realize, or maybe I just didn't care and didn't realize how it would impact the pattern. But first of all, it is a fingering weight, not a lace weight yarn. And it's just one strand of brushed cashmere. So it does not turn out to be see-through at all. You cannot see through this to my face right now because it's just too thick and there's not enough airiness to make this see-through. I knew it. I knew that was going to happen, and I proceeded anyway. So I messed up myself there. So I had to go buy the new yarn, and I ended up getting this. This is from Barocco. It's their Ariel yarn, and I believe it's like a 65-35, Mohair silk. And this is the colorway Merlot. It's not totally perfect. It's a little bit duller, not as saturated as the Geller yarns. And I think maybe there's a little bit of brown in this one. So it's not totally perfect, but you can see when I have them here together, it's good enough. When I hold it up against my body, you really won't be able to tell that it is slightly off, and it's still gonna give me the same look that I was looking for when I originally bought this yarn. So this is almost done. I mean, this would be actually done right now if I hadn't fallen in love with the sailor slippers. So this is almost done. The back of this is going to be done very soon, or I'm going to kind of put it on hold so I can finish the front and try to match everything together. But this, it's red. I kind of want this done for Valentine's Day. I think that would be nice. So we'll see. I have so many pieces here and so many yarns. I have to stop knitting the sailor slippers if I want to finish this, or at least give this kind of more equal time. My third project and second sweater for the month I'm carrying around in this Dia de los Muertos bag. It is another favorite of mine, and apparently I can't stop matching my bags to my projects. I love doing that, I guess. Didn't know I did. But it is holding my sweater project. This is the Sunday Sweater Mohair edition by PetiteKnit, and it is a top-down yoke sweater with some ribbed yoke increases, and then the rest of it is knit just in the round in stockinette, and it has a fold-over collar. It has short rows in the back to make the back a little bit longer for fit, and then it has, I think, 2 sleeve options, a straight sleeve and a puff sleeve. I think I will be doing the puff sleeve option. And there's actually 2 Sunday sweater edition or patterns by PetiteKnit. There's just the regular Sunday sweater, and then there's the Sunday sweater Mohair edition, which I am doing. And when I was kind of trying to pick out which one I was going to knit, I really took a good look at the pattern description. So there is very little difference. The main difference is the weight of yarn that is held together for each one. So the Sunday sweater regular ends up having a bulky weight fabric because you hold together a strand of lace and a strand of Aran weight, and that will give you a bulky weight fabric. The Sunday sweater Mohair edition, you hold together 2 lace strands, which gives you approximately a DK weight, which is what PetiteKnit says it is. So I knew that I was going to get more of a DK weight fabric out of my yarn, so I chose the Mohair edition. That is the main difference. There's another slight difference, which appears to be the regular Sunday sweater is got 6 inches of positive ease built into the pattern, and the Mohair edition has 4.5 inches of positive ease built into the pattern. Otherwise, I've only bought one of the patterns, but from the pattern description, they look almost identical in every other regard. Both of them have about 10 sizes, and they'll fit up to a 59-inch bust. They both have the same ribbed circular yoke, and it seems like they both have the same 2-sleeve option. When I was choosing a sweater pattern for this black yarn, I really wanted something with texture, but not too much texture because it was going to be in black and it was going to be hard to see. So I checked out the project pages for the Sunday sweater, and I found plenty of people had knit it in black, and you can totally see the ribbed yoke, and it just adds that little bit of texture that I was looking for without being, too much where you can't see it. And I cast this one on in November. But it was kind of just sitting, languishing in the project bag for a while in December because I just had a lot of other things going on. I was doing some sock knitting instead. So I picked it up in January, and I've managed to finish the yoke increases in January. I managed to do the short rows in the back. Let's see, you can see that the back is a little bit longer than the front. So I managed to finish my short rows, and then I split for the armholes and just have knit down the body up until I've finished the skein of yarn that I was working with. And speaking of yarn, I am holding 2 things together. The first is knitting for Olive's Soft Silk Mohair. This is the colorway Licorice, and it is essentially black. And the second is actually some mystery yarn that I got in Rhinebeck 2 years ago. And I really don't know much about this other than I'm pretty certain it is 100% wool, because I remember the sign saying 100% wool. It is not superwash, I think, because my swatch did not grow when I made it. And I think it is maybe a light fingering weight just based on the thickness of the strand there. So otherwise, I know it's black. Otherwise, I don't know too much about this. So I made sure to do a nice little swatch here so that I could see how the yarn behaved. And it didn't grow when I washed it, so I don't think it's superwash. And I did my best to count up the stitches and rows. So I think I am right on gauge with the pattern. So it should come out to be a size of medium, which is a 43-inch bust for me. So that'll give me like about 5 inches of positive ease. So I'm right there in the 4.5, 5 inches of positive ease that the Mohair edition has built in. And even when I did my swatch, I actually did one of those new techniques that's been floating around the internet where you don't carry the yarn back and forth across the back of your swatch. You actually carry it up the side, which I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I think my mom first told me about the technique, and it's actually rather easy to do. I followed a tutorial for it. You will find that in the description box below. And so I made a nice big swatch, and so far everything is turning out exactly as planned with this sweater. My next thing to do is actually going to be to knit the sleeves instead. I'm doing that for two reasons, one of them practical. The first being, I actually don't know how much yardage I have. I bought 3 cakes of this black yarn, and I don't know how much yardage I have. So what I want to actually be able to do is make sure that I get a full length sleeve out of how much yarn I have. And then if I have to make the body of the sweater a little bit cropped, I don't mind doing that. I'd rather have a full length puff sleeve with a cropped sweater rather than have a longer sweater with not a full length sleeve. So I'm going to start with the sleeves for practical reasons to make sure I have enough yarn. I think I will, because the first cake of yarn gave me this plus the swatch. So I think I'm gonna have plenty of yarn for this sweater. But the second reason that I wanna do the sleeves is more for a psychological one. Like, you know when you finish the body of a sweater and you just kind of like hurry up to finish the sleeves and you're like stuck on Sleeve Island for such a long time because sleeves take way longer than they have any right to take. I found that I don't get that kind of anxiety about being on Sleeve Island when I still have the rest of the body to go. It's just like a mind trick. I'm not sure. I've done it twice before, including the sweater that I'm wearing. So, and I've kind of enjoyed knitting sleeves a lot more when I don't finish the body for some reason. So I'm going to do that for that reason as well. And I don't know, do you find that you like don't mind knitting sleeves when you know you still have the body left to go? I don't know why. It's like a psychological like tick or something. I don't even know what to call that. But speaking of the sweater that I am wearing, this is also another PetiteKnit sweater. This is the No Frills sweater from PetiteKnit, and this one is knit in Woolberry Fiber Co, and the colorway is Camp Woolberry. Bethany just had her like very last Woolberry update. She's closing down that business. So I got some more yarn from Woolberry from the last time, but this is probably one of my favorite Woolberry colorways. It's like this soft peach with this just gorgeous amount of speckles, and I loved it so much that I ended up making another PetiteKnit pattern with it, and I made the December bow in some matching, with the leftovers. And yeah, so this Sunday sweater will be my third PetiteKnit pattern after this bow and this No Frills sweater. So it's probably not going to be finished this winter, to be honest. I'm kind of prioritizing the As If and the sailor slippers first, and then I have another project that I'm going to cast on. I said in my 2025 wrap-up video, one of my goals for 2026 was to knit more socks. I'll put a link to that video here if you haven't seen it, but one of the things I want to do was knit more socks. I paused that goal in favor of casting on the sailor slippers. So, I mean, socks and slippers, they're kind of the same. So I'm gonna give myself a little bit of pass for not achieving that goal yet, but I will be casting on another project probably today or the next day. And so the Sunday sweater is gonna be in the background and I will finish it whenever it gets finished. I don't really have a hard deadline for that. The final project that I've been working on is a sewing one, and it's funny, I've put so much work into this and I've been working on it pretty much the entire month of January, and it's not even supposed to be a real project. This is a toile for an actual skirt that I want to make, but I'm making it a wearable toile, so I have put in a lot of work into it so that it could actually be worn. So this is the Fumeterre skirt by Deer and Doe, and it is a maxi skirt, a very full maxi skirt. It's got these panels in it that give the skirt like a lot of volume and flare on the bottom. And it's got an elastic waistband in the back. The front and skirt are held closed together by a button at the waist and then a button placket going down the front of the skirt. That's actually view A. View B closes with a zipper fly and has patch pockets at the hip. So I chose to do view A. I'm kind of, still considering myself a adventurous beginner, maybe intermediate when it comes to garment sewing. So I've never put in a zipper before. So I just thought it would be easier to do the button placket option, and I'm not super comfortable with buttons. So I think I'm just going to be doing button closures for as long as it takes for me to be comfortable. The actual skirt is going to be made out of a viscose fabric that I bought from Core Fabrics. It is very expensive and I've never worked with viscose before. So I really wanted something very inexpensive that I could play around with. So I ended up buying this fabric. It's an orange stretch flower viscose it's an orange flower stretch viscose from Joann's, and I think I ended up getting this for about $5 a yard, and I got 4 yards of it, which I think is what I needed for the pattern. So I ended up getting 4 yards of this, so it's a very inexpensive thing, and it is in viscose, so I definitely wanted to play with it before I actually cut into the really expensive core fabric. But I have yarn that will match this perfectly, so I decided to make it a wearable toile. And I've spent a lot of time learning how to do French seams. So for viscose, you really need to make sure that you finish your edges. And the pattern kind of recommends doing French seams. I didn't know how to do it, so I spent a lot of time doing the seams along this paneled skirt. And I even decided to add a pocket. So the pattern does not come with inseam pockets for view A. View B has the patch pockets on the front, but what I wanted for this was inseam pockets. And so I actually hacked the pattern and I added my pocket, and I had to learn how to do a French seamed pocket. So the pattern tutorial that I used for that is also down in the description box. You can check that out if you are interested. And I am so happy with the way this is turning out. The only thing left is I've done one buttonhole at the waistband. The only thing left for me to do is finish the rest of the buttonholes, and then I'm actually making fabric covered buttons out of the same fabric here. So I have to make the buttons, sew them on, and do the buttonholes. And this toile will be done. It's so funny that this is just a toile and it's taken me all month. I'm kind of like, oh God, I have to do this again for the real one. But I think now that I really know how to do the French seams, now that I've sort of troubleshooted the pattern with a toile, I think that the next one is gonna go really fast. I modified it to add pockets, and the really big thing that I had to do with this wearable toile was take away length. I knew that the pattern was gonna be too long for me. I'm 5'1", and I ended up having to cut away 4 inches off of the pattern, but because I didn't have a toile to work with, and I wanted to make this one wearable, I kind of had to guesstimate. So I ended up cutting like just an inch off of the paper pattern, thinking, holding that up to myself, thinking that would be enough. Oh my God, it is not enough. Definitely not enough. So for the toile, I cut off an inch off of the waistband. So I had to kind of like hack the waistband on to make sure that that fit properly. And then for the rest, I cut off 2 more inches at the hem. So then I also had to kind of like hack the hem facing here. So like you'll see in a bunch of spots, I tried to do it towards the back so you couldn't see. I made these little like, let's see if you can see it. I made these little like pleats in the hem facing because it didn't fit on right because I had to cut like 2 inches off. So that's throughout, but more towards the back so that it could be not as noticeable as the skirt kind of like flutters open when I walk. But yeah, this is almost done, and the real one will be up next, and I hope I can just get this done in like a couple weeks because it's been literally a month of doing this. And I'd rather move on to another project, but the pattern, the fabric for the real skirt is so beautiful. It's been something that I've wanted in my wardrobe for a really long time. So that alone, just the fabric alone is keeping me going to make another Fumeterre skirt. So that's everything that I've been working on for the month of January. I really surprised myself with how much progress I've gotten specifically on my knits. And then like whenever I have a free moment here and there, I'm like running to the sewing machine to try to get this toile finished. And I've really surprised myself, but I think it has to do with the amount of events that I've had for January. I went to a screening of the movie Sinners, followed by like a panel Q&A with the director Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan and a lot of the other cast members. And so I got a ton of knitting done that day, and I went to see the Book of Mormon on Broadway, ton of knitting done there. And my husband and I have been trying to see all the Oscar Best Picture nominees. So before the nominations came out, we kind of guessed which ones would be nominated. So we've been doing that. So I've just had a whole ton of knitting time. Which brings me to my extremely sad January book report. I finished one book in the month of January, and it's an audiobook. So like it counts as a finished book, but like usually I finish audiobooks like within days. This one took me a whole like month and a week to finish. I started listening to Brimstone by Callie Hart in the month of December, I think like towards the end, and it took me all the way through the end of January to finish this one audiobook. Part of it had to do with all the events that I went to. I just, wasn't home, or I've been watching movies, so I wasn't doing a lot of listening. But the other part is that I found the book to be so much slower than the first one. I read Quicksilver back in, I think, November, and I flew through that book. That was like my number one audiobook of 2025 that I put that in my January wrap up as well, along with the other 4 of my top audiobooks. But that was my number one audiobook of 2025, Quicksilver was. And I just didn't like Brimstone as much. You can find my review of this book. It's a non-spoiler review in the description box below in my story graph. But just basically, I just found it so slow, and I found, some of the plot devices to be a little bit meh. I still enjoy the book. I'm definitely going to read the next one whenever that comes out, but it took me so long to get through it. So just one book for the end of January. I haven't even been reading anything. Usually I read at night before I go to sleep, but I've just been falling into bed either too late or too exhausted to read anything. So hopefully more books to come in February. I usually post about that on Instagram and about what I'm reading. I also have Storygraph. I've kind of abandoned Goodreads, but the link is down there below if you want to check out my previous history, or my to be read list is on there. So check that out. But if you've been sitting with me this long, thank you so much. I so appreciate it. I will see you on the next one.